BNC, 100% black and brown host around the clock. Finally, news that speaks to us.
Joining me now to talk about the state of affairs in Mississippi is Laurie Bertram Roberts. She's the executive director of the Yellowhammer Fund. Welcome to Amplified, Laurie.
Hi, I'm so grateful to be here.
Glad to have you. Can you just start by telling us a little bit about your organization and what your charge is there in Mississippi?
Yeah, so, I originally co-founded the Mississippi Reproductive Freedom Fund, which is still active in Mississippi, funding abortions and doing broader reproductive justice work, which means, working around the right to have a child, not to have a child, and to be safe and secure in the communities that you choose to raise children, if you choose to have them, or even if you don't have them, and having all of your reproductive rights affirmed and supported. And that's the work we do at Yellowhammer Fund as well. And so between these two states, that's what we work on. We work on supporting people in getting their abortions if they choose to have them, and in parenting if that's what they choose to do.
All right. So what about Dobbs v. Jackson? How critical is this case to reproductive health?
I mean, it's a direct challenge to Roe, and that's what it's meant to be, and that's what it was crafted to be. As someone who has been in the halls of the Mississippi State Capitol since 2010, I can tell you that state lawmakers have been working along with national groups to craft laws that are direct challenges to Roe for years. This has been a mission of theirs that has not been subtle since 1974, since before I was alive. So this is not new. This is not novel. It's just that they feel like their time is now because the court is the way that it is, and that this is the time for them to finally have this moment.
Yeah, since before you were alive. I mean, that kind of puts it in perspective. So what is the state of affairs today on the ground there in Mississippi?
Yeah, the truth is it's really hard to get an abortion. It's not that people don't get abortions. It's that people have to drive 2-3 hours one way, 6 hours round trips two times because there's a 24-hour waiting period, which means you have to come and then you have to wait at least 24 hours in the state of Mississippi, 48 hours in the state of Alabama, before you can come back and actually get your procedure. There's no telemedicine in the state of Mississippi. There's only telemedicine in the state of Alabama because of the provision under COVID. So you're talking about people having to travel exorbitant distances. And if you're someone who has to have a procedure past 16 weeks, you're talking about having to go out of state automatically. And even though we have that one clinic in Mississippi, that's not the only clinic that serves Mississippians. That clinic is in the center of the state. That means that people who are not in the center of the state go other places. They go to New Orleans, they go to Memphis, they go to Atlanta, they go to Florida, they go to Missouri, they go to Illinois, they go to Arkansas. So, Mississippians get abortions all over the place, all over the Southeast. And that's just the reality of it. They're driving long distances already without Roe even being annulled.
Yeah, and obviously, that's for women who can even afford to do something like that. So what kind of on-the-ground efforts are you engaging in to secure women's reproductive rights?
I mean, it's definitely a multi-pronged effort. It's definitely taking things from the policy angle. Like, we definitely work more so with policy orgs than doing policy ourselves. What we mostly focus on is mutual aid and direct support for people getting to their appointments, getting their actual abortion, supporting people in knowing the information on self-managed abortion. That means getting pills. We know people are getting pills by mail, making sure that they have the legal information, the legal health information on how to use those pills safely, making sure that people know where clinics are, how much clinics are asking for money, where the resources are for people who want to have an abortion, and also where the resources are for people who are already parenting, because often those people are the same people. The people who are parenting are the same people who are getting abortions. Those aren't different people.
So I want to go back to what we were talking about with the Supreme Court, Roe being possibly overturned. Do you think that will happen?
I think it's extremely likely. I never thought when I started this work a little over 10 years ago, I would have told you no. And I would have told you no because it's such a great money maker for the right. I mean, it's honestly their big wedge issue that gets people to the polls. So I thought they would never want to give that up. However, we're in a different time now, and the fringe is now more in power. And I think we have a really good possibility that Roe is going to be, if not completely overturned, decimated to the point where it's going to be irrelevant, where in many states, the only access is going to be like Texas up until your 6 weeks. And that's virtually no access.
I got to tell you, I've never heard anybody put it in those terms, that they don't want to give it up. It's a moneymaker and attraction for them. Interesting perspective. But I'm wondering what you think a quick confirmation of Ketanji Brown Jackson might figure into any ruling. Would it?
I mean, yes and no, because it doesn't shift the balance of the court, right? It doesn't shift. What would change is an expansion of the court. That would change. What would change is the Democratic Party getting rid of the filibuster and passing the Women's Health Protection Act. What would change things is them actually doing, major legislation that would codify Roe into law. But I'm not seeing any of those things. What I'm seeing is a lot of feet dragging and a lot of hemming and hawing and a lot of posturing about what reproductive rights mean, and a lot of white people co-opting reproductive justice, but I'm not seeing a lot of fighting for reproductive justice. And the truth is that the people who are harmed the most are the most marginalized. The people who are going to be criminalized the most for self-managed abortion are Black people. And the people who we already know that are being harmed with laws like in Texas are the people on the margins. We know that people mostly are still getting their abortions, but what a recent study showed us is that yes, there are people not getting their abortions, and that's the margins. And it's always the people at the margins that are harmed the most.
Well, Laurie, since you brought that up, according to Guttmacher.org, 21 states have laws that restrict the legal status of abortion, while 15 states and the District of Columbia have laws that protect the right to an abortion. Is this all about geography or something else here?
It's about geography, but it's also about race, and it's about class, and it's about the last gasp of white supremacy, right? If you look at the states that are the most restrictive around abortion, they're also the states that are the most invested in white replacement theory, the most conservative. They also happen to be, a lot of them, in the Southeast, where there's been a long fight over how many Black folks are still around and like how many Hispanic people are coming in. And so there's a lot of conversation about the white birth rate. And like, it's not that they worry about us having abortions. Let's be real. Their whole notion about Black folks, this being abortion being genocide for Black folks, they don't care about that. What they sincerely care about is increasing the white birth rate.
Well, I think you brought up a couple good points there, but there's so much more to this. We're out of time, though. But Laurie, thank you so much for joining us. Laurie Bertram Roberts, Executive Director of the Yellowhammer Fund. Appreciate you joining us here tonight on Amplified.